Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Movie Trivia Schmoedown!
Hello, folks, and welcome to Sip or Spill, a Schmoedown retrospective. And today I have actually someone I've been really looking forward to just speaking into in general, not just on the show. But I've got Kevin the Smasher Smets with me today. How are you?
Hi, how can you hear me? Can you hear me? Is this working?
Yeah. This we're live. We're good.
As you're rocking music, by the way, I feel like I want to go to Miami and commit some Grand Theft Auto or something. Reminds me of Grand Theft Auto Vice City. But yeah, doing good. But I realized I wasn't sure if my mic was plugged in, so I've been working today. So
nope, despite technical difficulties, we're all good to go today.
All our 40 different reschedules.
Oh, it's all right.
All my fault, by the way. Don't blame Kiwi Jess. It was all me. So
you could have blamed it on the time zone. Everyone would have just believed it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's on the time zones. It's all the time zones' fault.
Yeah, it's my time zone. I'm ahead of you guys and behind at the same time. We were just discussing that in the back room, how it's 11 a.m. here, but on Monday. So
yeah, I was going to ask if you. I made the joke. I'll repeat the joke. If you have a time travel, you tell me what the end of the football games are, so I can make some quick bets in Vegas.
I'll just make an almanac. Start selling those.
What's Monday have in store for us? That's great.
I mean, it's summer here, so we've got gorgeous weather. So
nice. It's raining, believe it or not, in Southern California. Getting our first little bit of rain.
Oh. I also want to start off by saying
at any second, by the way. I hear
that's
her
fine.
Wandering.
No, that's fine. We're somewhat child friendly on this show, I think.
Yeah.
So I want to start off the show though by saying congratulations on being, forever reigning IG champion. Is that what you can call yourself now? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what to call it. Like the last champion would mean it's over for good. Forever means but when you're a World Series champion, you're a champion forever, kind of. So I don't know. I'm just glad I won it back. My last outing before that against Parker was less to be desired. He's kind of had a rough patch that match going into it. And no disrespect to Parker, he won, he destroyed me. So it was really like that last month leading up to it. I just remember I'm not going to study. It's the last thing ever. And then I kind of realized, I'm like, you know what? If it was the last ever Super Bowl, every person in that NFL would do everything in their power to get there and win. And so then I was like, I'm so burnt out. I had a really busy year because I just kept winning. So when that happens, it's like I kept having these months of prep and I was quite burnt out and exhausted. Usually you get a loss. And after I lost to Parker, I would have had 3 or 4 months off, which is kind of nice to refresh and stuff. But this was literally I lost and it was 3 or 4 weeks later. I forget now. It's all kind of a blur, but I was like, okay, one more push. I can do it. This is what got me my success in the beginning. And it was really hard because I really focused. And it was not fun because you get so burnt out. But I kind of pushed myself through it because in my head, I'm like, if it was the last ever Super Bowl, Tom Brady would play his hardest to get there. You know what I mean? Not comparing myself to Tom Brady, but just, any player worth their salt would try their hardest. And I also thought because I was so burnt out that maybe Parker would be burnt out and therefore Parker wouldn't try as hard because he already had the championship. So then I was like, there's always just that game of chess. I think that if I work a little harder, I can come out. Yeah. And it proved to be the difference. It was, I went perfect, but he only missed, I think, one. So but that was just the difference there.
Such a tight match. Because obviously they must have come to you at some point, Skybound or Christian, and said, hey, we're thinking of doing a last IG match. What do you think about an all champions match? What were you thinking? Because obviously we had such a great range of competitors and with that match, it must have been really cool when they were like, you know what, instead of just doing a,
Yeah.
number one contenders match and then do a final, actually having like a, you know.
Yeah, I was excited because like Mara and I are close, and like we always wanted that Brooklyn match, and then it didn't happen because of situations. And then by the time it could have happened, then the pandemic happened. So, and then cancer happened. So it's like we were really stoked to be on the same stage, kind of against each other. And then, you know, for me personally, it was like, you know, you always have a bad day at the office, and you know it's not indicative of how good you can play. So like my match against Parker, like, you know, it was just not a good best day at the office. So I kind of wanted to get like, also he's had my number. He beat me in the fan leagues. He beat me, you know, in that match. And I was just like, I know that I can beat him. I know that if we play 10 times, I'm not saying 10 times out of 10 I'd beat him, but I think that we've split it pretty evenly. So I was just like, I gotta prove to myself that I can come out on top on him. And then of course Chandru and I become really close this year. And so being a match against him, like even though he's the bane of my existence, like he wasn't in character for that match, so that's good. Anybody who has to play an in character would attest to how crazy it is when you miss a question and he's laughing and you know he's just having a blast, but you're just like, damn it, like. So it was good. I was glad. I was really hoping that Mike would be there. I was really hoping that Rachel would be there too. I was hoping that they were going to try to get everybody and just have this crazy like 5-way or 6-way, whatever it would have been. And that would have been a cool celebration of the league. You know what I mean? So, but I knew that was my chance. I was like, I felt like if I really worked hard at it, that's what got me there in the first place. And again, it was a real struggle because like it's, you know, when you know it's over. And to be honest, right before the Parker match, I kind of read the writing on the wall. And I'm not saying that's what made me not work as hard for Parker, because again, I got TKO. There's no excuses for that. But like right around that time, the week before the Parker match, kind of the writing was on the wall where I was kind of hearing the whispers. I was like, oh man. And so getting that chance to kind of redeem myself, knowing like this is it. This is the last chance to redeem myself. Because one thing about me is, yeah, maybe I can't defend. I can't pull a string of wins together once I win the title, but I always prided myself on coming back and I've done that all my life. When I was coaching for marathon teams and Ironman teams, like you'd have a bad day, we call it bad day at the office on a training run or a bike run, and you get blown out or you hit a wall, and it's like scary because you're like, how am I going to do a 26-mile run if I can't even do a 7-mile run? Well, sometimes you do a 7-mile run and you don't do the nutrition right, and you screw it up a little bit. And so it's all about that bounce back. And I will always make sure as a coach that my runners or my competitors the next week would bounce back and be even stronger, because that was really important on the psyche, and they always would. So it kind of that same motivation for me. I was just like, and again, I don't think, and this is I think Chandru probably was working hard at it because he was just itching to play too. Like he hadn't played all season. But I know Mara had her issues. Like she had some medical issues that like she didn't get to, like, it wasn't her top form. She didn't get to study. Like, so like the fact that she still went out and did that match was for me like really inspirational, because I think a lot of people would have been like, no, I didn't have enough time. Like, but she's like, no, this is the last ever. And she went up there and she performed. And that really moved me and inspired me. And I think Parker, for me, I was like, he had just won. Is he going to really work that hard? He's got it. I know how it feels when you first get it, and now it's going to be over after this. Like, and I just knew, I was kind of like, there was blood in the water. And as a shark, I was like, okay, if I just work really hard, one more freaking 3 weeks of just hell, I could squeeze and eke it out, you know? Wasn't fun.
It must be nice now not to be able to watch IG films and not have to, like, turn on study mode, right?
Watching Thor Love and Thunder with my wife in the theater, I remember just like nudging her. I'm like, dude, thank God I don't have to study this anymore. And I believe that Avatar was being close to being added to IG. It wasn't there yet. And we recently rewatched Avatar, and we put it on the subtitles. And just so many names and different things with the apostrophes. And I was just like, oh, my mother mercy. Like, I am so glad I don't have to do any of the studying. But at the same time, then you kind of miss it too. It's like, oh, that, like, I remember there's a couple polls where you're just like, oh, that would have been a good poll. Like, imagine you get that 5 and you know the answer to, you know, the name of the waterfall on Pandora or whatever, you know what I mean? But yeah, as far as that goes, I don't miss all of that hard work, but I miss just the it's like I said, there's hills and valleys, just the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, and the hard work to get there makes those things exponentially stronger, whether you lose or you win,
Yeah.
So I'll miss those moments, and I miss the fans, but I don't miss, some of the heartbreaks, and I definitely don't miss when you feel like you just wasted all this time studying on something. Rachel made a good point too. She hated and it's so true. Like when you're like, all right, I'm tired, I can go to bed, or I can watch another IG movie. And the second you put that in your brain, but then you decide, no, I'm going to try to go to bed, and then you're in bed and you toss and turn for an hour and a half, and then you realize, oh, I could have watched Elektra then or whatever. And then you're pissed at yourself because you're like, whoa, okay, that I tossed and turned in bed. So there was a constant internal struggle, or like, should you watch a TV show? Should you watch a sporting event? No, you should watch another IG movie, and that was just not fun.
Did the people around you get sick of, like your wife, for example? Did she kind of get sick of it just being the same run of movies all the time? Was she like, come on, anything else?
Bless her. Like, I mean, she's loving it now. Like, we love watching White Lotus together, and she likes Sex and the City. And I feel like I owe her watching Sex and the City for at least 5 years because she watched so many of these IG movies with me. But yeah, we kind of, the sad thing is we literally sat and we were like, so much work goes into it. And I was like, and when I'm studying, sometimes I'm not as, quite present. Like, I want to have a good balance of being a good husband and a good father. And sometimes deep into training, I got to be in my room watching these freaking movies or drilling or training myself. So, but we kind of sat, and it's sad in retrospect now, but like literally this year we were like, look, Christian believes in this thing. If this were to blow up and you're still at the top of your game, obviously that you'll come along for the ride. And then that's where this thing could not become just a hobby, but actual, a job that can provide for the family, or at least be significant side money. So we kind of just said, like, let's just go all in for the next 3 or 4 years. I was away from it for a year, and we know we missed it. Like, so I was like, what's 3 years? Like, let's put in the 3 years, really work hard at it. I was fine. I was balancing everything fine. You know what I mean? But like, we're like, why not just give it our all? And then after 3 or 4 years, revisit it. And like, so I was going to give to the business, or give to the Schmoedown, like 3 years of just top of my game, training as much as I could. I wanted to expand and go into teams, which I started with Mark and Draco, and then eventually singles. I had a whole off-season study plan for that to really be formidable in the singles and teams, hopefully the following year. So it was just kind of like, we're having fun. Where else do I get to be a character and act like a lunatic with a hoodie on? It was a bummer that it didn't turn out that way, like that it all shut down. Especially, that's what makes me think, that's what like bums me out about that year I had to miss because of cancer. It's like, that was a year I could have had fun playing with everybody and being entertaining the fans, and being away from it. I just thought when I came back, well, it's always going to be there. And then no, it wasn't even there for a year. So that was a pretty tough pill to swallow. But
I think a lot of people felt that way. I think a lot of people didn't really see it, especially for it not to go throughout the year and for it to finish sort of when it did. I think a lot of us were like, well, at least we'll have Spectacular. Like, I know myself as a fan, because I came into it only end of last year, and everyone was like, you're going to be at the next Spectacular. So yeah, absolutely. And then obviously none of us were at the Spectacular. And so...
You never got to go to a live event then?
Sorry? No, I never did. It's all right. I'll come over there and I'll put on my own one. It'll be me and Kaiser constantly talk about doing rogue Schmoedown matches where we just start them up. Like you run into a Schmoedown player in the wild and you have to actually face them in a match just because you run into each other. So we're gonna establish those, I think. Also, we've got
my doors. I'm not prepared to defend my title.
Well, Kaiser knows where you live, so I don't know. That man's pretty crafty. I feel like he'd find a way into your house if he really, really wanted to.
That's true.
I mean, and speaking of matches, like obviously when the announcement happened, was there anything that you were like, oh damn, I wish I could have played so and so one last time? Or I know that you said that you were hoping to go into
I would have loved to play Chandra again. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I think we played each other twice every year. It would have been fun to play Brandon Hanna. We had a lot of scrimmages or whatever. He would always help me in mock matches and stuff like that. And true story, right before I won the title, before I beat Chandra in my return match, I would scrimmage with Hannah all the time and win basically every time. But right before my match against Chandra, my return match, he eked one by me. I didn't know my 5 and he won, which is a big. I was like, good for him. And then in my head, I was like, am I slipping? But I guess.
Do you remember what the 5 was? at all?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was a crazy 5. Mara was the match. She ran the match, and it was like in the super duper cut of Deadpool. Deadpool 2? What is the song played when he reunites with Vanessa? And it's "Take on Me" is in the original, and then I didn't know. I knew there was a Christmas version of the movie, right? A Deadpool, very Deadpool Christmas or whatever. I forget the name of it now. It's all out of there. Like the second I
You've
retired,
just even let it go.
But I didn't know there was a super duper cut. Like, I was like, what the F is a super duper cut?
You can swear on the show, by the way.
I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
What
It's fine.
the fuck is a super duper cut? And then I remember thinking, I should have just said "Ashes" by Celine Dion, because that's the song in the opening of the movie, and maybe they could have reprised it, but I didn't. I had no idea, so I was like, nope, don't know it, and then Brandon hit his 5. So the rest of the training that year, we would always joke and be like, if anyone missed a question, I'd be like, wait, is that in the super duper cut? So I didn't know there was a super duper cut of Deadpool 2. So I'm not gonna take away from Brandon. He got me on that one. So. But then it was good luck, because then I ended up winning my return match, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, Brandon Hanna would have been fun to play, like for the whole character of it. Mara, obviously, a 1-on-1 would have been good. Amaru, like we were talking about that, and Saul spoiled Amaru's plans. And I like playing Saul.
I'm sure he's pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I would play Saul again too. I like that. I thought that we had a good chemistry, like character-wise. Like it felt really 80s or 90s wrestling. Like we got that stare down before the match, and we're just a bunch of, he was the trivia gorilla and I was the smasher, and it's like you're gonna collide. I think it would have been cool to have. We were playing respectable face dynamic, but if this thing continued on throughout the years, doing like a heel face dynamic against each other would have been really fun. So I would say Saul, Amaru, Chance. We always talked about that. Chance would have been fun too, just to kind of continue the corruption rivalry and stuff like that. So. And obviously Rachel, that would have been fun. Like I remember when Rachel was being pegged to be in, where she was slated to be in Spectacular. The first earliest rumor was she was going to do the IG match, and I was like, oh, that would be so cool. So, and true story, if the Schmoedown didn't end, we were talking about, and we had everybody on board at least before the season began. We wanted to do a charity, like a Smash-a-thon type charity live event, where it would have been me and Mara versus Mike and Rachel, and then for charity, like all the proceeds would go to charity or whatnot, and for an IG teams match, just exhibition. But then it never happened. So sorry.
IG teams would have been great. I would have really loved to see teams and IG.
Yeah, we had me and Frank, we had a great plan that we pitched to Christian. He didn't hate it, but it just didn't happen. But like I wanted to do one where like Alex Damon was heel with Brandon Hanna or something, and a new commissioner would force me and Chunder to be teammates.
Oh no!
Right, and this is before my comeback. The idea was don't have the comeback match right away. Have the comeback match at a live event like 3 months in. Build it now. I'm back. I crashed this party at Spectacular, but now let's have a storyline where Chunder is for. There's a big reveal that we're going to do IG teams, and we're going to do this special attraction to launch the IG Teams League, and that's Chunder and Smets versus like evil Alex Damon and Brandon Hanna, or Amr. It would be a pairing of two people that could have a puncher shot at us, but against me and Chunder, and then the storyline would go. And we would have a series of sketches where Kaiser's trying to train both of us, but me and Chunder can't get along. And you know what I mean? It would have been just throughout like 2 months, like, oh, I hate you. Like we're like two brothers hating each other. And then in the first round, he would be there, and it would be kind of a take on the whole Rachel thing, but it's different because Rachel just got no-showed by Kent. This one, me and Chunder would play round one all the way until but every question, even if we both got it right, he would be like, well, I got it right before you. Like we would be arguing all the time. And if any of us missed it, the other would be like, what's up? Where were you at that? And then by the 8th or 9th question, Chunder was going to leave and be like, you know what? I don't need to play you. Like, good luck on your own. And then whatever lead I had, I would have to try to because by then, I think it's only round 1 where you have that doubly points. So then I would have to somehow beat them 1-on-2 or whatever. And then the biggest heel move ever, which was the plan was then the commissioner would come on and say, because everybody, like you said, Jess, it would be fun to have IG teams, right? Mm-hmm. And so then the commissioner would come on, whoever it was, and be like, because of the acts of Chandru leaving Kevin, we are canceling the IG division. We realize that division is too heated. So the biggest heel move of all that Chandru would do is we had the IG teams, and then with his acts, he destroyed it. So now there's no IG teams.
One and done. I kind of really love that.
Yeah, and then we would have our blow off match. But Christian's like, no, man, like we're just gonna launch the season with it. So I was like, man. So
that would have been fantastic because Chandru, I hear such lovely things about him as a human being.
He's a great yeah.
And for him to be here, which I've always said that, because obviously most fans, I'm sure every fan does this, where you think about if I was a competitor, what kind of competitor would I be? And I always thought like I'd love to be a heel because it's so, beyond my type, and also because you kind of get to control the narrative around yourself of like I get to be in control of the fact that people don't like me.
Yeah.
So I don't know, was there ever a point where you were like, maybe I do like a real full heel turn? Because I know obviously like the cancer journey and stuff, it makes it so hard for you to like angle in on that whole thing.
Yeah.
Because then
Christian used to joke and say that I could take a bag of my piss and throw it on the first row of Spectacular, and they'd be like,
"It's fine." It's
fine. So it's like I think the days of being a heel, unless I was like cancer was fake, I took all of your GoFundMe money and I bought my own island. And then I could have Dasha come out dressed like totally like as a vixen, and we're like, we don't even have a kid. Kira is a hired baby, and I did this all for the money. Thanks for your GoFundMe money, and then just have this super uber heel turn. I mean, Christian's like,
you'd have to go super evil villain for it to really work.
But he's like, you can't do that, because also like trying to be a good, a beacon for people that have had cancer and stuff. So you can't really do that. We tried to turn me heel at the end of Spectacular when I beat Mike, but Mike he wasn't aware. There was no communication. Mike had no idea that his speech before the match was literally almost beat for beat what my speech after the match, win or lose, was going to be.
Oh no!
During his speech, I look over at Christian. I'm like, "What the?" He's saying what I was supposed to say, and Christian's like, "Yeah, like." And then I tried anyway. My other plan was my dad was in the audience, and like part of my heel turn, but like you guys. Bless the fans, I love them. They just kept chanting "Smasher, Smasher," like even when I won. And then I was like, "I'm gonna call out Mark Hanopik," thinking that like they would like boo me then, and they were just still cheering me. And like my original plan is that if they were booing me, the whole thing was like, "Where were you during Don't Tell Peter? You all turned your back on me, so I turned my back on you. I'm champion, and I don't need you anymore." And piss off. And then I was gonna have my dad stand up. I was gonna warn him. But I was going to, my dad's in the audience, and then he'd stand up and I'd be like, "You ditched me too during Don't Tell Peter. As far as I'm concerned, you're not my dad anymore." Like, I wanted to go this full-on heel, and it literally just kind of no, it didn't happen because, like, Mike had a great promo beforehand, but, like, he didn't know that he was just basically almost beat for beat stealing it's not stealing, just saying what I was planned on doing. And I guess there was no communication with Christian and him because, what are the odds? So, yeah, we kind of just called an audible about midway through that interview with Jess. You can even see I whisper something to Jess. I'm like, "Hey, I'm turning heel during this interview," but I don't think she heard me. And then I tried, and then the fans kept cheering, and I was like, okay. We kind of just called an audible on stage. It's like, all right, it's not happening. They're happy for me, so.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's great though that you've got so many of the fans like behind you in your journey. But yeah, that must be really hard because I imagine it's so hard to turn heel when you are such a great pillar for the Schmoedown that you've got so many fans that absolutely adore you. But trying to turn that around must be difficult.
It was funny because like deep down, I agree all the respect for heels, because to be in a room surrounded by people where they want you to lose, that would be difficult for me. And I got a little of that feeling when I played against Hector Navarro. I've never said this out loud, but like Hector Navarro, I was still kind of a newbie. Hector has a lot of friends. He hadn't been on the set for a while, so a lot of the old school Schmoedown people were there. And that room, even though and I was the heel, I was playing the heel that time where I'd storm off, say, "Bring me Kalinowski," but like that room was very pro Hector Navarro. Like there was a challenge there that was made by not him or a manager, but by someone in the crowd that's just a friend of his, which then they accepted, which was weird but that was before there was a lot of rules about challenges. But like that, the room in there, and like just when I just kept running, like the scores getting higher, I could just tell that everybody was like, "Damn, this kid," you know what I mean? Like, The feeling of the heels, they have my utmost respect because I just remember that was the most where I felt the pressure of like, man, no one in this room wants me to win. And also, I love Hector Navarro. I kind of want him to win, So like, it was a weird vibe. But yeah, we always said, Kaiser and I were like, we're not going to kiss babies, but we're not going to like run everybody down. Let's just do our thing, and they can decide whether they cheer or boo us,
Yeah, I mean, and it worked out really well because it must be so hard to hold face during things like that, like especially your return at Spectacular because that was an incredible reception that you got, even though people have been talking about it, in circles for quite a while about whether we'd see your return or not. Yeah. That reception, it must be so hard not to like start smiling and like how did you keep yourself, because I find it really hard not to get brought into that energy of like, oh my gosh, everyone's so excited to see me and like this is really powerful.
Yeah, I thought I'd have tears for sure. Like even Christian was making fun of me and saying you're probably gonna cry or whatnot, and like I kind of held that back. Yeah, that whole day was kind of surreal. Like, so in the morning, like me and Chandra do our run through, and then we're in the back alley. No one wants to see us. If anybody sees us, it's ruined. Like, because he's not on the card, I'm not on the card. So why would we be there? Especially me. Why would I be there? Maybe he could be there because he's a fan or whatever, or as just as a fellow competitor supporting. So we're leaving, and my wife makes fun of me to this day. She's like, well, meet me at this coffee shop. And we turn the corner, and there's a big group of fans wearing, like, Ben Bateman shirts or Action Army shirts and So Sorry Lex shirts. I could see it from far away, and I'm like, there's a Schmoedown fan. So we have to turn and hide behind a trash can while the fans walk by us. So me and Chandra are basically playing, like, live-action Metal Gear Solid for any PS gamers out there.
Yeah.
So we have to wait. And so my wife is like, oh, you guys are like the Beatles, making fun of me. I'm like, it's not that. It's just there's we're only kind of right now known in this 3-block parameter, and people are getting there for the pre-show thing or the whatever it was, the expo. And I'm like, and we need to get out of this area without being seen. And so we finally we made a run for it. Once we were like 2 blocks away, then you're safe. But like, we were we literally hid behind a trash can. And I remember looking at Chandra like, what are we doing? And then my wife was just making fun of us like, oh, you guys are like the Beatles, so famous.
I mean, but it would have been.
Yeah, what's that?
It would have been, because that's the thing, is all it takes is for a tweet or a Reddit post of like, I've seen Smets and Chandra hanging around Spectacular. And we're going to know. Everyone's going to put 2 and 2 together. So
yeah, and it seems like for the most part, no one had a clue that like the music hit. I think when the lights dropped, I think that people were starting to catch on. But I don't think people throughout that event knew, because we were in the rafters like Phantom of the Opera like the whole time hiding. But yeah, it's not often. I talked to my oncologist, and he's like, when someone beats cancer, they usually ring a bell, or they have their friends and family come over, and they'll have like a nice like picnic or whatever. It's like, you got to beat cancer and then make this rock star like entrance with fans cheering your name and chanting your name, and it was like, yeah, I think that is the most epic way to like kind of reveal myself back, that I'm like in remission. And it ended up being the last ever live event moment. I never thought ever. Like, I was telling Kaiser that, like, us embracing at the end and the lights go off is like the end. That was the last time there was a live event of the Schmoedown, which is kind of sad, because like at that point I was like, I'm back and we're going to do this for years on end. Like, let's go,
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how the world works like that. Because I was watching because obviously it was my first Spectacular last year. I was watching with a group of people over Zoom, and the emotions behind you coming back, even though a lot of people were hoping that you would come back, I know that it was really powerful for them. So I'm just amazed that you managed to keep composure, because I would have been probably swept up in the event itself, especially because you never know how people are going to react until it actually happens. And it's one thing to think what the moment's going to be like, and another thing entirely. It's like winning, even when you're like, I think I've got it, but then hearing your new champion, or still your champion, and going, oh, okay, cool, this is it.
It was full circle too, because the first time I made an entrance at that was for Free for All 3, and it was after only one match had aired, and I'm walking down, and Christian, is hyping me on the Smash your Smets, but half the people I don't think in the crowd knew who I was, because maybe they did, but like I only had one match, or maybe I had 2, maybe the Jay Washington match just dropped, but like I remember walking down and just a lot of people booing, no one, and it wasn't like there was you don't want no reaction. You'd rather have boos or cheers. And mine was right in the middle of like no reaction or boos, like because just no one knew me yet, right? And so that combined, and that I remember thinking that when I first was walking down that same aisle this time, and it was a completely different, obviously, reaction. And it was like that's how full circle. Like I was very proud of my career at that point. And you know, the fans were the ones that were keeping me. They literally kept my family afloat with the Smash-a-thon and the donations and stuff. Like that allowed me not to have to move in with like to move out of our place, like because I didn't work for like 11 months. I couldn't, like it was physically possible. And she couldn't work. She would have, but she couldn't because we had a newborn. So the Smash-a-thon literally raised enough money for me to not work. And by the time that money, you know, goes to the family and runs out, now I'm working again. And it was like, so I literally owe that to the fans. So to come back and have that moment to the fans, and it just felt like a really wrestling moment. Like it felt, there's a couple moments in Schmoedown history that have been wrestling moments, the tackle and all that kind of stuff, but and the slap. But this was definitely like one of those. It just felt like you'd see this in wrestling, and the reaction was huge. My wife and kid were up there. I could see them, and my dad was in attendance, and it was just it was a very proud moment because, you know, they're the warriors too, and the fans are. I don't think it's easy to hear about someone you care about or like or follow suffering, and I would keep my journey public, and not because I was looking for sympathy, but because I knew that there were people out there that it was helping them. In fact, I heard from someone that I didn't even know she had cancer, and she messaged me. She said, you know, I'm going through my treatment now, and I haven't had the guts to tell you, but like, and I've known her for like years, and she's like, but following your journey over the last 2 years has really kept my head in the game. So thank you. And like, that's why I do it. So that moment was just a culmination to come back, and, you know, be there. And it's just, you know, bums me out because I was like, oh, this is the beginning of a lot of these kind of moments. And no, it's the end. Beginning of the end.
I don't think anyone knew that. It's spectacular.
Oh, no.
But I mean, what a way to go out for a last live, you know, moment, to have that be. I mean, it's a lot better than it being, I don't know, a major loss at a live event.
Yeah,
it could have been that, and that's how it ends. Because I know a lot of people, a lot of competitors, because I've spoken to quite a few of them, you know, because of how sudden and abrupt the ending of Schmoedown was. There's so many of them sit there and go, oh gosh, I wish I'd just maybe studied a little bit harder, or did more, or you know, played more matches, because I know there are a few people who are like yourself planning on branching out, because teams, that would have been so cool to see more of you in teams.
Yeah, that was fun with Mark. We
so
talked
great.
about, yeah, like one of I sent him a picture, Mark, of us hugging after my crazy David Bowie guest. And I sent him a picture of me hugging to him and Kaiser, and then he wrote, that was the moment a team was born. And that was like cool. Like he could have had anyone. Mark could have been handed anyone. He literally requested me. He was like,
wait, is that how it happened?
Yeah, like he could have had anyone. I mean, he wasn't offered people and he rejected anyone. He wasn't sure about coming back, and Christian pitched like, what about Smets? And Christian did not tell me anything. He was just like, what about Smets? And Mark really liked that idea. Mark was really helpful during my time away. You know, he's a comic book writer, and he knew that I was gonna have a lot of downtime with chemo, and he sent me like all of his graphic novels he's written, like with his name on the top, and so I got to read those. He's so talented, and you know, he would send me texts throughout. And a long time ago, he was roommates with Zipper, and Zipper, before his good run in the IG tournament, I wasn't out with cancer yet. I was just waiting for the winner of the tournament, and it was right before I lost to Chandler. But I gave Zipper all of my flashcards for like a week. I'm like, here. And he looked at it. He was like, what is this? And this is old school flashcards, not Quizlet and all that. Like, I had a big bin. And I'm like, Zipper, if you go through all of these and you just narrow it down until you keep going, until you get it all, I'm telling you, your average will raise. And he did it. And his average raised like by 11% or whatever. And he got a couple wins. And Draco was his roommate at the time. And he sent me, and Draco texted me, and he said, if you ever need a teammate, let me know, which I always thought was kind of funny and a joke. But full circle, then, yeah, Christian pitched him to me. And then he called me, and I was so nervous. I'm like, dude, I haven't at any time. Like I always said, if I do anything, I want to be coming in prepared. And when you've dedicated, you know, first of all, I wasn't that big of a movie file for a while. I was back in film school, but then life happens, and then I kind of just stayed away from movies for a while. So I had a huge gap of like 6 or 7 years where I'm like, dude, I'd have to really study up on it. And it seems like a lot of PJ's questions were from that era. It's like from 2005 2005 to like 2016, like just completely dead zone for me because I was more into sports and I was training and stuff. I didn't have a lot of time for movies. So I remember telling Christian, I'm like, you got to give me like a form, like if I didn't have a title at the time, so I was on an IG run. I'm like, let me do my IG run first, and then if I falter, then give me like 2 months and I'll do it. He's like, no, just do it. Like no one's gonna care. Like have fun. Like and then and so it was cool. Like we were gonna put Stephen King on the wheel, so he gave me movies, and Draco gave me movies he wasn't that familiar with or he didn't really care about, like he didn't want to watch them. So that was my mission, and it was so cool. In the round 2, we landed on it, and we got like 2 questions that. I think Mark knew one of them, but Mark didn't know one of them. And I was like, yeah, I studied for this and I knew it. And it felt like I got to contribute. You know what I mean? Because Mark's the greatest. He's like one of the greatest of all time. So I just felt like I was just going to be riding his coattails. So it was nice to like contribute and no one, I think he probably knew it too. He was probably just trying to make me feel better, but yeah.
And so, because like obviously that was just the one teams match, but did you have plans? Like, did you have your eyes set on any other teams that you were like, when coming for you next?
Oh, like to play some teams? Well, yeah. Originally it was going to be me and Draco, and it was going to be like and Draco getting his revenge against Roxy and the Stars, how Roxy's evil. It was going to be Chandru and Erwin versus me and Mark and Draco. Or it was like Stacey Howard and Chandru versus me and Mark and Draco. It was going to be some combination of that, and it was going to be like a Stars versus Dungeon kind of pushing the storyline. So that was going to be like the next match, win or lose against Windblade and Glory Jean, which was I was happy for them. Like, that was. I mean, we kind of ran into a buzzsaw there. I mean, we did really well. I think we would have played any other rookie team, like we would have been fine. But I knew we were dead in the water because Sean Blade's an IG guy, and their 5 was an IG. It was an IG 5, and an IG 5 in singles or teams, it's kind of like an IG 3 or 2. So the second they were like, oh, in the realm of comic book movies, I was like, all right, we just lost.
Yeah.
But we were really proud of it. We were really proud of it. And then but my plan was to literally, I've always had a crazy plan. Back in my rookie year, I was supposed to be in that match with Laura Kelly and Andrew DeMolanta, that famous match they first had in studio. That was going to be a 3-way with me in it. And I had a whole plan lined up. I had a whole thing where it was like, I was going to dedicate like 1 week per movie. I had a 12-week plan. It was going to be insane. And I was like, I'm going to come in there like a buzzsaw and just be ready for Star Wars. And then at the last minute, they had to move the Chandru match against me to get to the right to go to Spectacular. Mm-hmm. And that almost didn't happen for me because I had a Europe trip plan and they had to move it around. So when they moved it around, suddenly I was not in the Star Wars match anymore. It was me versus Chandru to go to Spectacular. That's in 2019. And that was the closest I ever got to Star Wars. I would have done it then and been fine, but when they started going way more deeper and doing a lot more of the stuff that I wouldn't be able to hang. Like, and that's all the credit to them. They're amazing. And then singles, like it would have been fun, but I always planned on doing a crazy off-season training thing. And I already had a lot of the materials built. It was just like, I just need a couple months to do it. I would never want to go into something not prepared. I wouldn't want to go in there and kind of get embarrassed, and it's scary. It's easy in IG when you think you know everything, you have like a 90% chance of getting everything. Whereas in singles, you're sitting there like they might ask a question where I don't even know anything. Like I've never seen that movie and you have nothing. You can't. There's nothing you can say.
Yeah, it's especially like here's the thing is I always struggle when people used to have the conversation about which is the hardest division, because here's the thing is they all come with their own challenges, don't they? Like IG is very specific, much like Star Wars is, but a larger range of things than Star Wars is. And then you've got singles, which can be about anything. Yeah. And so sometimes they've brought up films. I'm like, I don't even think I've heard of that film, let alone seen it.
I think singles and teams is harder. IG is more work. And what I mean is with singles and teams, you only know what you know. And you kind of have to be like, okay, like you can't just cram and be like, all right, let me memorize everything from the 2000s. You can't do that. Whereas IG, you almost have this responsibility of like, I need to know everything about every movie because now even round 1 questions are deep. And so IG was always more work, like more like literally you're studying for the LSATs or your SATs or a final or whatever. Whereas with singles and teams, I remember I was like, we had our rundown. Like I knew what I was supposed to know for the round 2 stuff, but like, you can't just do a crazy training for every movie ever. So like, for that one, it felt for me, it was just like, that's kind of going to rest of Fate. But it's hard because you need to know more. You need to have way more a base knowledge of movies throughout everything. Whereas with IG, it's very specific, and anybody can go from 0 to expert if they really put in the work. It's just more work, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, 2 seconds. I've got an alarm going off. I'll be right back.
Oh, God. Well, here I'll let me scroll the comments and see if anybody has anything to say. I could also use this time to say that Scoundrels Inc. is our podcast that we talk about. Star Wars, that would be myself, Brandon Hanna, Frank Janish, and Sean Sullivan. We talk Star Wars, and we're kind of ridiculous. So it's a gold podcast. We kind of argue and have crazy theories, but in a fun, respectable way. So,
I mean, how stoked are you going to be if Snoke gets revealed in Andor? Because that's been your popular theory, right?
Loy is Snoke. Everybody's going to find out. He was lying. He knows how to swim. He was just saying that, so he's dead.
Just to lull me.
The scar on his forehead is actually from a motorboat injury. He was riding on the back of a motorboat, and it cut his head, and that's why he has that scar. And then he gets picked up by the Empire, and then they clone him, and then the rest is history. It's so obvious that no one knows that.
Just because he's voiced, I loved him in that show. It was great.
So good. I actually ran into him. I did a funny tweet where I acted like it was recent, but it was a couple of years ago. I was running near this hotel, and it was during the Independent Spirit Awards, and he was there at the hotel signing a bunch of Force Awakens posters, or the Last Jedi posters. 2016, Last Jedi posters, right before 2017, or at the end of 2017. And one guy had him sign 6 posters, and I was running. I was all sweaty, but I was like, shit, I can't not say something to him. I love the guy. Mm-hmm. And so he was done, and he made a quip. He made a joke. He's like, "Oh, that's all going to eBay anyway, probably," because it was one guy with 7, 8 posters. And I said, "Hey, you mind if I get a photo? I'm a big fan. I love everything you've done and your acting and stuff like that." And he's like, "Sure." And he put his hand on my sweaty shoulder. I'm like, "Well, I'm sweaty." He's like, "Oh, it doesn't matter, mate." And he put his hand on my sweaty shoulder, I was drenched in sweat, and we took a picture together. But I recently released it and said that this is proof that Kino Loy is Snoke. So.
Oh, there we go. You've found that you've got the.
I got the proof right there. He told me in 2017 that he was going to be on Andor and tell me that Kino Loy is Snoke.
Well, Alan's got a different theory than you. He says that he's clearly Greedo.
Oh, that's a good theory too.
Ben Rayner also wants to know, because we might as well take some questions from fans. But your favorite Andy Serkis character, Gollum or Caesar, or even not necessarily
Kino Loy. I love Kino Loy.
Oh my gosh, do I ever?
And I love his Caesar's great. His Caesar's great too.
I see Gollum in his eyes, especially after they start planning to break their breakout, and he's terrified. He's got his hands. He's on program. I'm like, oh, there's Gollum.
Smeagol.
Big
Smeagol's eyes. It's crazy.
Giant eyes.
Yeah.
We'll circle back to that, but everyone do go and watch Scoundrels. And because what are you guys going to cover now that Andor's over? Obviously, until we've got the break before.
Well, we talk about news, just the news of the era, and we'll go through top 10 lists and stuff. And there's so much Star Wars to cover as far as news, and just the movies too. We really go deep dive on a lot of things. It's not just about what happens, but we talk about overall themes and what were the filmmakers intending, and it's really cool. We each bring our own kind of thing to the table, which makes it a unique but good group to talk about it.
Yeah, I love that dynamic of it. The fact that you don't always see eye to eye on things, you B2 EMO.
Oh my, B2 EMO, dude! Come on, we're streaming right now, right? Your headphones are working, right? Mm-hmm. Can you hear my voice on your headphones?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good. Now imagine your headphones were upset because you didn't use it over the weekend, and now you're trying to get your headphones to work, and it's Mom, I can't because I'm sad. You need to have a droid know its job. Your headphones cannot have, my microwave. Just cook me my Hot Pocket. Don't be sad that I didn't use you to heat up toast. I used the toaster oven. So.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are thinking that he's going to become K2SO. But I'm the K2SO is just he's completely different in his characterization. He's very dry, very sarcastic.
Also, they already kind of did that with L3 becoming one with the Falcon, which then I read something really dark, by the way. I think it was William Bibiani who tweeted about it. It was it's sad because L337 or whatever was so about droid freedom and rights.
Yeah.
And to her final resting place is to get plugged in into a ship against her will, basically, and now she's like a slave of the Falcon. And somebody was like, every time I see the Falcon now, all I see is a cage for L3, and I'm like, that's really dark, dude.
It is actually very dark.
Yeah,
very, very dark.
I mean, we have fun, right? Like, do I really hate B2? No, but like, I think I'm probably the only one on the planet that like just wasn't like swept away. Like, oh, he's great. He was like annoying to me. I'm like, oh, Marva, like sad. Like, no, get your act together, dude. Like R2D2.
Suck it up.
R2D2 saw some shit, dude. R2D2 saw shit. He saw people killed. He saw his master turn into a freaking lunatic psycho. He saw Padme crying and stuff. But he still had the wherewithal to be like, all right, I'm taking C-3PO. Hey, we're getting on this escape pod. Or we're getting out of here to get to Tatooine. If they get captured or caught, then the Death Star plans don't escape. Like, who do you want? You want B2EMO to have the Death Star plans? Could you imagine? The Empire would still be rolling right now.
Do you want it? You can have it.
You can have it. Oh, I'm sorry. Like, no. He'd be like, give me my restraining bolt and the Jaw. He would just live with the Jawas for the rest of his life. Down with B2.
I feel like Sean's suddenly at his desk. Like, I can feel the B2 emos. Like, disturbance somewhere. Kevin's talking shit about him again.
Yeah, I think their noses. And when their noses start tickling or whatever, you know that Kevin's talking about B2.
Yeah, I know. Okay, we're circling back to Schmoedown. So, So the plan was to go from teams and then eventually work your way up to singles? Because had you started that training yet, or were you seeing how teams were going to go?
I didn't start it, and it was they had to fight me I was fighting tooth and nail not to do it. I'm glad we did it, because if we would have waited, then the Schmoedown was over, and I would have always regretted it. So Christian was like, "No one cares, man. Just go out there and have fun with Mark and Draco. Like, it's a good." And I mean,
of all people, you're going back with him as well. You're going back with Draco. So really, as a debut team.
Yeah, I mean, I had one hell of a partner. I just didn't want to let him down. Like, I wanted to always go in. You don't want to be the weak link, the weakest link. I forget what the quote is now, but the weakest link breaks the chain or whatever. Like, and I knew I was the weak link, but I wanted to be as good and prepared as I could for him, because I know it would just be frustrating for someone who goes from like having a partner as one of the greats, Jeff Snyder, to me, and if I'm just not knowing stuff that I should know, like. I would have felt really bad. So it was cool that I got that like pull straight out of a guess, but like it just and we knew we were like we're only going to get better, and like because I knew like okay, so I had just lost to Parker, so I didn't have any matches lined up. If they didn't go away, like I was going to be like okay, I'm focused on. I wasn't going to have. I think there was the IG tournament that was going to happen, but I was like okay, I'll be able to split my time. I'm going to get ready for our next teams match too, and I was pretty confident about the tournament that I can kind of run through the tournament. Except I knew Chandru was going to be in the tournament too, so it was going to probably end up being me versus Chandru in the final again. Or me versus Saul. If Saul's listening, Saul, don't worry. I'm not saying you couldn't get there, but yeah, I was really like I wanted to kind of split my time. But my main thing would have been the off season. Once Spectacular was done and we'd have like 2 months, I was just going to be like Christian. Don't let me do IG for like the first 6 months of the year. I'll come in for the tournament in the summer. Let me focus the first 6 months on getting good at teams so I can be a good teammate for Draco. And that was the plan. And I always thought that would have been really fun to do. And it would feel like I'm getting a breather from the IG stuff, I don't know how people like Kalinowski and them did both at the same time. Like that's just crazy to me. Like all the props.
I don't know. Because I know I've seen like some people have giant stacks of just note cards and just everything. Because I remember I wrote, this is like almost a year ago now, we did a Star Wars match on the Star Wars Holiday Special, great film. Yeah. I had to write questions on it, and even just writing questions and sitting there and going, okay, so what would be considered a hard question? Because we didn't do like 3, 4, 1, 3, 5 pointers. We just literally did easy, medium, hard, and I got given hard questions, and I was like, I don't even know what the scale is for this. And then even just looking at everything and poring over everything, because Parker's talked about, and you'll probably agree, there are some films that are really dense when it comes to trivia. Like he said, Lego Batman's probably one of the most in IG, one of the heaviest ones, which is funny because you'd sit there and you enjoy the hell out of that film that you wouldn't think it'd be a dense film.
Lego
But
Batman,
he said even the opening 5 minutes of it is
Lego
insane.
Batman, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World was always a dense one where you're just like, oh my god, like what am I like? You just have to know the coin worth and everything, and like every character and the evil X's and like the songs, that I would agree. Lego Batman was a dense one, and the one that I could compare to that, where I'm just always dreading when I get there, was always Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which is a movie that I love, but I hated studying for it because it's everything. Name all the T's. Sleepy Time T. Janine would like that one.
Oh yeah.
Shout out.
I don't know. I don't even know those ones off the top of my head, and I love that film. And I couldn't imagine sitting there, especially because that'd be hard. Breaking down films that you hate, I imagine are tedious at best. But to break down a film that you really love, did it take anything away from those films, or are you still able to go back now and actually still love them just as much as you did prior to?
Yeah, some movies have suffered from it. It used to be a Christian Christmas tradition to watch all of the Lord of the Rings movies. And
that's my New Year's tradition. Is New Year's Eve I spend watching all the extended editions. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the extended editions and I loved it. And I would even play. I remember as a kid, I would have the PS2 game where I would play the games too that week. It's like the week of Christmas I would do that, and that's not happening this year. And funny thing, well, there was really hot weather in Mission Viejo, and I visited my mom. I'm like, let's get you out of the house, and we went to this nearby theater. And it was right after the spectacular, so everything's done. I'm done. I don't want to see any movie. And this theater, it's like a dine-in theater. And what are the odds? Because I guess there wasn't a lot of movies there. The only movies that were playing was Top Gun Maverick, which we love. So, I mean, that was cool. But the other movies that were playing, they had a re-release of Lord of the Rings, because Rings of Power came out. So you could watch any of the Lord of the Rings movies. And they had a re-release of No Way Home. And I'm like, Mom, I'm sorry. I cannot watch these movies again. Like, I'm so sick of them. So
don't make me do it.
Yeah, even like watching She-Hulk was hard for me. Like, just anything in that realm, it's still a little. I think I'll get over it eventually, but like, yeah, it not ruins movies, but just like, yeah, like I haven't seen Black Adam yet. Like, I saw Black Panther, but like, or the Wakanda, because I really wanted to see it, but like, I'm in no rush to see any of these movies because like it's fun just to watch. Like, I revisited The Godfather. I love those movies. Like, I watched The Offer show, which leads into The Godfather. Like, so it's been good, like diving into like other kinds of cinema, So I think eventually, I think by next Christmas, I'll be ready to do my Christmas tradition of the Lord of the Rings again. I hope, because I miss doing that. And I have steeped myself back into Star Wars. One thing is, during IG, I didn't train for Star Wars that much because I knew so much about it. Again, I was going to do the Star Wars League, so like that's why early on in my Schmoedown matches, I would miss a couple Star Wars ones, which I was like, damn it, okay, I got to study a little bit for it. Because like I would miss some ones, like I missed one, like the bosses would do terrible things to me. I said the Gungans, like, and that's something had I watched the movies, but I was like, I don't need to watch Star Wars. I don't want to ruin Star Wars. I know enough, right? But I was still missing little things. So I kind of studied a little, but now that I'm done with the Schmoedown, I'm deep diving. I've come up with this like crazy Star Wars rewatch, which like started with like the Tales of the Jedi episodes with Dooku, then into Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, all of the Clone Wars, but even like some of the novels and stuff, like canon, some even Plagueis novel, which is not canon, but I'm doing this whole thing. I have this, it's like 38 different things to watch, but one of them is just Clone Wars, the whole series. So like, that's one of the buttons. So like, think how long it's going to take me to get through the whole thing, but I'm
just starting that. We've done the Umbara arc.
Darkness and Umbara is my favorite arc. That could have been if episode 2 was episode 1, Darkness and Umbara's opening could have been the opening to episode 2 and made episode 2 like an epic war movie,
So good. It's so beautiful to look at. Gosh, that series is so damn pretty to look at. Yeah. And some of it, I'm sitting there going, why don't we do this with Star Wars? Like, a lot of these arcs as well.
So,
my gosh.
Tales of the Jedi, Plagueis, Tales of the Jedi, Ahsoka's Origin, Phantom Menace, Tales of the Jedi, Dooku's Fall, Age of Republic, that was the comic book series, Obi-Wan and Anakin comic series. So it's like you keep going, and I have literally everything I just mapped out. And I've talked to a couple other people. I'm like, I think this is the right order. So it's cool, like diving in and getting back into it. I'd probably be really good at Star Wars trivia now, but I did the settle the score with the Scoundrels guys. That was fun. Oh,
Yeah.
Visitor.
Oh,
Come here. You want to get on camera? Oh, she's too shy. You want to come here? You don't want to come here? Come here. Say hi. Do you want to come here? I can turn the camera. All right. Okay. Anyway,
she's
she's too shy.
No, maybe not. Maybe not. I just wanted to come in and stand here.
Watch your head. Cutie. Sorry.
No, don't be.
But it's been fun diving back into Star Wars and my KOTOR movies. We have another release coming out on December 28th. We're going to release a trailer this week. I don't know if anybody's familiar, but I've done these Knights of the Old Republic movies for years before Schmoedown. And it created a really solid, rabid fan base. It's not like viral or anything, but like our fans that we have, it's just kind of the Schmoedown, like very passionate about our movies. And KOTOR 1 was a game. Then you had Knights of the Old Republic 2. The Sith Lord was a game. We made movies based on those games. But now we're done with the games, and we're actually making movies and series, like webisodes that take place before the games and after the games. And the new one coming out is basically, we're calling it our KOTOR 3. But it's coming out, and that's on December 28th. And so it's been fun to like dive back in. They showed me a cut of the version of the newest episode, and I liked it so much on Friday night. I was like, I can't sleep. Like, and I woke up at like 1 a.m, or at like midnight or 1 a.m, and I was like, I can't sleep. And I cut a trailer. I took like 3 hours, and I cut a trailer that I'm releasing tomorrow. I did it on Tuesday and releasing it on Tuesday. And I edited it in like literally like 3 hours. I'm like, here it is. So it's pretty cool. I'm excited for it. I think the fans are going to like it. And it's fun being part of Star Wars storytelling. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, there's so much lore and so much to dig from, especially like I love the Knights of the Old Republic games. They're so good. Yeah.
Have you seen our movies?
Now I'm just finding out about. I'm gonna have to watch them now.
I'll send you a link. I'll send you a link of good ones to watch. You can see trailers and stuff.
This is what I love about this community.
That's our ongoing joke with Sean Sullivan. I'll be like, have you seen my movie? Because Sean claims that he's seen my movie, but I don't believe him. So I don't think he has. So we argue about that, but in a fake way, obviously. It's fake, but yeah, you'd love it. We totally made like in my KOTOR episode 3. It takes place during the final parts of the KOTOR game with the Star Forge and everything. And like I have new characters, fully revoiced characters to make it more cinematic. And the guys, they're so talented. They open up the game like a toy box and are able to set cameras and do movements and basically manipulate the cutscene programming and make our own cutscenes. And I would just do animatics. I would do animatics that look like South Park. And then I would send it to them with the music and everything. And then they would bring it back to me fully fleshed out, fully scenes. And it's straight like a movie. So
that's incredible.
Yeah.
People are so talented. That's what I love about this community in particular, is how many people have such interesting talents that they don't really get to, because we all know each other as either, competitors or fans or part of the community. And so it's really cool when you hear that people have got other things going on, because we're all just a bunch of nerds. So there's a lot of nerdy stuff.
So many talented nerds. Everybody, there's a lot of talent. That's what I like about the fans too. It's like, it's not like the fans have their own thing going too, and they're all talented in their own way. And I've always thought and appreciated that,
Yeah, I mean that's the lovely thing. I mean, this community in general is just wonderful. I was really upset that I found it and then it's all gone to pieces. Sean and I are actually friends, and he was like, he's like typical. He's like, we Latin foreigners, and then you come in, and then suddenly the Schmoedown's over. I'm like, yeah, it's interesting. I joined the community, and then now it's kaput.
I would love for you to watch KOTOR and then text him and be like, hey, I watched KOTOR before you did.
I absolutely will. Anything I can do to outdo Sean in a bit.
Oh, that is funny.
Because that man is a big fan of bits. His favorite thing to do with me is, because I'm still learning a lot about your guys' culture, is he'll say things and he'll try and I'm sitting there, I'm like, is this a bit, Sean? He's like, no, it's a real thing. I'm like, is it a bit though, Sean?
I ask him all the time if there's a bit. He'll look at me and be like, oh, he told me he's reading some novel, Dixon Hill novel or something. Not Dixon Hill. I don't know where I got. Is that a thing? He told me, I don't know. He said he was reading some novel, but the way he looks at me while he's saying, oh, I'm reading this novel, Dixon Hill. And I'm like, wait, Dixon Hill? That's from Star Trek, by the way, I think. Whatever. But he tells me he's reading this like novel, and he names the novel, but he says it with a smile. And I'm like, I'm like, is that a bit? What's funny about that? And he's like, no, I'm really reading. It's called this. And I'm like, it sounds like you're giving me a bit. And then he has to show me the novel. I'm like, well, why do you just say you're reading the novel?
Yeah, he does that. He did that with me when he was describing, because we've only literally just got Costco this year, like in the later half of the year. And he was trying to tell me about it at the start of the year. And he was like, oh, and you can go get your wheels done and like get an eye test. And I was like, okay. I was on board with the Costco thing until you told me they did tires and you told me they looked at eyes. And he's like, no, I'm being serious. I was like, no, Sean. No,
Yeah,
Sean. I don't for a second believe you. And he had to like bring it up.
Especially if you need both at the same time, it's just handy.
Yes.
You just get your tires done and your eyes fixed.
Yep, he does, like the amount of times that man says things, and I'm like, is this really happening? Is this really a thing? Because I still don't know.
He's one of my favorite people in the world, though. So.
Oh, he's great. He's so great. But yeah, I mean, we're hopefully going to be doing a show together next year at some point. He's been teasing it for a while.
I think I know what the show is, and I'm excited for that too.
I'm very excited for it. Me and him constantly talk about it. And hopefully there'll be another thing that I'll be inconsistently posting about.
Yeah.
Okay, but in terms of like with your Schmoedown career and stuff like that, I want to know, were you a physical or a digital media kind of person when it came to studying?
As far as the footage or like the study, like I had flashcards.
Like, okay, so you had it, because I know that Parker had an app that he did everything on. Then I was like, I'd love to have like
apps. I couldn't
physical.
Really I'm old school. Like I it's just from growing up. Like when I was in college, like I was all about flashcards. It just I understand the Quizlet app. It's it's cool, but like I didn't really I wasn't into the Quizlet as much. I was more the hard paper. Like, and every time I tried to veer away from that, I always felt like I didn't do as well. But yeah, I was more physical. With physical notes, I had giant notebook. Like I called it the Smash Book. 2 notes, and I would just read. As long as I could read the Smash Book in one night before the match, I could just, or like 2 nights before the match, I could just read the whole Smash Book, and I had it highlighted, so I can go through a thick thing and all the highlighted things, go through that in like 3 hours, and everything would be in my brain temporarily, so that I can just regurgitate it out the next day.
Do you still have it? Have you like kept
it?
I
didn't burn it. Yeah, I'll keep it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I'll use with it, but.
Yeah, that's the problem. This is what I talked to a few competitors about, especially ones that had physical cards and physical ways of remembering things. Is they're like, well, what do I do with it now?
I feel like the second I throw it away, Christian will call me like, "Hey, we're back."
Or you'll just regret it because it's such a no. Like, when are you ever going to have this particular experience again? Like, what I used to love telling people is when I told them I was doing like a YouTube show, they're like, "What's it about?" I'm like, oh boy, how do I explain the Schmoedown to you guys? Because it's such a weird niche thing. I'm like, oh, it's like wrestling, but it's like movie trivia. And you see people go, oh, you either get people who go, oh, that's really awesome. You get people that like sort of glaze over and go, oh.
Yeah, but yeah, they either get it or they don't.
Yeah, and that was a really interesting part of like explaining to people, because that's another thing is what our community is bound by, is this really weird experience of it. The Schmoedown in itself is such an interesting platform because it's not like anything else really out there. Yeah. There's nothing else that's
I always thought it was going to do well. I think in retrospect, I think the overabundance of the storylines in the final season kind of hurt it. I think one of the best, and I might be biased here, but I think me versus Mike Kalinowski was a great rivalry. And there was no overly storyline written. It was just 2 guys that wanted it more than the other. And, we still had like I had to bring me Kalinowski, then we had the stare down in the face, and then, the fun stuff that me and Kaiser did when we went to the theme park looking for him. But like, there was no real like orchestrated, like, oh, like your manager turned on you and now Mike and you, it was like, no, like we were 2 of the best and we wanted to play each other. And that, like, the promo leading up to Spectacular 2019 was really great. And I think it was just like, I don't think this is why the Schmoedown went away. There's other reasons why it went away. But like, I think that the Schmoedown at its best was like a combo of UFC and WWE. Like WWE for some of the stuff, but the UFC, like with the packages and, more about like 2 people that really want this prize, who's going to get it. I liked that more than a lot of the overly dramatic, like storylines and stuff. And that, I don't know if that turned away people, but I think there was nothing if the numbers weren't going to turn around, Skybound was going to have to walk away from it anyway. So, and it's good for Christian. He's been, really excelling at his channel. So, I want that. I want the best for that guy. Him and Mark did a lot for me, especially in my recovery. So, I want everybody post Schmoedown to be doing well, and I feel like they are. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to keep up, I would say, because I came in obviously about October of last year, and what I will say is, you're right, storylines and promos and everything like that really made a difference. Like a big, huge shout out to Eric Nerd Chronic, who is probably a big reason why I'm even in this, because I started and I wasn't even going to watch Schmoedown for a while there, and then I had surgery, and I was going to be off for 6 weeks bedridden. I was like, I might as well try the Schmoedown thing out, see what it's like. And I said, oh, what should I start with? They're like 5150, try that. And that promo at the beginning, I had no idea who these two men were. And by the time that match kicked off, I was so invested, and I didn't even know who they were. And I was like, I want to see who wins this. And week after week, he just excelled at driving these storylines that it didn't take me long to pick up on who was rivals with who, where they sat. And I even had my little notebook with everyone's names and who they were and what faction they belonged to and all these sorts of things, because I wanted to keep up with Schmoedown. And it made it so digestible that I think coming in right off the back of that to Titans, it was nowhere near as easy to follow as I think it was the prior years.
Yeah.
And it's not, no offense to whoever was doing editing this year, but like I really loved how Eric drove storylines and built them up prior to matches that you could go in blind like I did, and you knew that there was something brewing. And that's to say, I think you're right with the whole, some of the biggest storylines weren't fleshed out this season that really should have. They didn't concentrate on major ones. Everyone had to have a storyline, which made it very hard to keep up with. I think if I came in this year, I don't think I would be around right now watching, stuck around to the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the fact that the Schmoedown, I did get in right at the end.
Because you got in right at the end. At least you know when they release the old seasons, like you'll get to watch some of the other seasons that were really good. I don't know if you ever got to watch like season 5 and season 6. It's some fun stuff.
I watched some of the earlier stuff. I did start getting into it. I mean, like I stumbled across because I was looking for like footage to do a promo for you for this interview, and like because these sorry.
Isn't everything like unlisted now? You couldn't even find it.
I can't find it. So, but what I stumbled across was I didn't even realize, because I knew Parker was in like the fan leagues, but I didn't realize he did shows talking about Schmoedown before he was on. So I found babyface Robert Parker talking about your very first match.
Really?
Talking about how he'd played you in the fan leagues and how he's super excited to see you in the Schmoedown. It's so funny seeing like clean shaven baby Parker talking about you. Only for like flash forward a couple of years later, and he's actually, you two have a rivalry in the IG division. Yeah. It's so funny how these things come full circle.
I think that rivalry was good. I think that would have just even gotten better. You know what I mean?
Especially with them turning heel.
Yeah, we had a great, and I paid it forward for him. He we knew I lost for like 2 months, and I was like, let's really pump this up, Parker. Like, let's do like Anakin Obi-Wan. Like, we literally, that's what I said. I'm like, let's just do Anakin Obi-Wan. And we were joking about how like all of our promo needed was me saying, you were the chosen one. But like, even all the way up until that right before the match where I like tell him like, right to his face, like, I loved you, man. Like, I'm going to put you out of your misery for you. Cause like, and then we're going to come back to this, but like, and then leading up to it, all the promos, like, I knew it was really important to him winning, and he's my friend. He's one of my closest friends, and so I was so happy for him, and I wanted to build that up. So people, even in Reddit, didn't know the week of our match who had won. They probably thought I won because I was talking so much, right? I was, and I think in the past there have been some players that don't do that, like they just disappear when they lose. Which is, I've been on the end where no one promoted a match that I won, and that sucked. And so I wanted to make sure. For Parker, I did that. And I just thought it was going to be the beginning of a great back and forth. And I do believe that if we played each other 10 times, we would be taking turns winning. So,
yeah, he's great. Because I'm actually friends with Robert as well. And I had heard that he'd won before I saw the match, and I didn't say anything to him because I don't want him to know that because I'd had it revealed to me accidentally. Kaiser's great, but he's a talker. And he's in the middle of the conversations, and then Parker won, and I've done all because he was talking about how as a manager he's got into everyone to where he wanted to be, and then everyone like looked at me over Zoom and they're like, Jess didn't know, and he was like, oh, I'm like, it's fine. And then we're in the backstage of our drunk trivia match that we did with him versus Kaiser, and I said, Parker, can I just see the belt? He's like, I'm like, yeah, I've heard. He's like, I don't want to tell you because I thought as a fan you'd want to find out with everyone else. I'm like, dude, like, with mates, I can absolutely like celebrate your successes with you when they happen. So he's so lovely about being like, I don't want to spoil your experience or anything like that. But it's hard when you're in that middle ground of like being friends with like competitors and managers where they say things you're like, oh, not need to know that.
Yeah. He has a love for the game, and like honestly, it was bittersweet. Because when I lost, I was super happy for him, and like he had, and I told him though when I hugged him, I'm like, run me down in that post game, like, and he does. He just like Kip's crying in the corner, like But meanwhile, I right before he did that interview, I'm like, don't be merciless, dude. You just destroyed me. Now make everybody know it, because I cared about him. I wanted his. I was so happy for him and proud of him. But then that's why I was like, okay, I got to get my win back at the Spectacular,
Because that must be hard. I imagine playing against your friends must be so much harder than just, playing.
Yeah, because you want them to win too. I think playing Mara was hard too. I would have loved for her to come and win that title. That would have been a storybook ending too. You know what I mean? So,
but you don't want to go light on them either because you don't want them to, to win that way. So you've got to put up your best fight.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, so that must be. I don't know how I'd wrestle with after, because how do you do after the fact, especially if it's quite a hard loss? Is it really hard, like just talking to them afterwards, being like, hey?
No, we hung out that night. We hung out. We took a picture with the belt together. Like, it's different. Like, I think some people aren't like this, but I was able to, I think maybe because I had the hoodie, it was such a thing where when I put the hoodie on, I was a character. That when I lost, I was like, okay, I know it's not the end of the world. I'm not losing my job because I lost, right? Like, if I lost like 5 in a row, maybe I'd be like, damn, like, what happened to me? But like, I knew I just didn't have a good day at the office. But like, I wanted to celebrate him. We went to a bar afterwards, and like, I wanted to make sure he was just in the top of the world and in the best spirits. Like, I come away, I still have like for me, there's nothing to be sad about. I mean, remission from cancer after a year of hell. Like, I have a beautiful baby girl. I have a beautiful wife. Like, everything's happy, right? So like, Schmoedown to me was always just side stuff. It was like icing on the cake. So if I won, it would have been great. It was really important for me to win that belt at the end. I was glad to do that because I felt like I won. It felt right? But like when Parker won, I was like, I could see the storyline of it. Like, well, this is better. If Parker would have just been this bratty kid that's like my protege, and then we fight, and then I kill him, or not kill him, but like if they Anakin Obi-Wan again, we fight and I beat him, and then that's it. Like, there's no story. So him beating me, him becoming on the top, and now the mentor is like, great. Now look what I created. I got to fix this. That would have been a cool comeback. Like if I would have won through the tournament and won, and then him versus me at Spectacular storyline. The mentor versus apprentice again, even though he was really not my apprentice, but it was a good for the storyline's sake. But like, these two brothers fighting again for the top prize in the sport. But now Kevin's ready. He sees that his friend is dead and gone, and now it's all machine now than man. Like, it was going to be a crazy build, and it would have been really cool, especially if I got to win that tournament and get back. So
because you obviously ended winning. I know that there was a lot of people that were talking about who could have won that last, they called it Fatal 4-Way, I think, at the end. And so I think everyone had sort of championed. Part of me was like, imagine if Chandru ends, if Schmoedown ends with Chandru being the Schmoedown champion, it would be the most like heel thing ever for him to be the last one. Could you have imagined that man's post-match interview?
Well, we weren't supposed to be in character. I pushed for Chandra. I was like, be in character, man.
I feel like he would have turned it for that. Come on, he would have absolutely milked it. One last post-match interview, he probably would have gone. I would have loved to see him go character for that, just to like end it on that. Because that's the thing, is like, I would have loved to see him in character for that match, because like it's the last time he gets to do that. It's the last time we get to see him be
I was hoping. My other joke, Kaiser was even like, he was like, why don't you go out in character? Like, meaning like, once the freaking lights come on, just go out there and like when Mara tries to hug you, just stone cold her, stone cold Chandru, stone cold Parker, and just go in there and be 2019 Smasher, answer every question, get the title, and leave the building. I'm like, I can't do that. Like no, I couldn't. There's a joke you see in my entrance. I like look and I do this, and then I kind of joke. I'm like, nah, I'm just kidding. That was my joke to Chris or to Kaiser, because like the original plan, he was like, why don't you go in there and fully be 2019 Smasher? Don't make jokes. Just go in there. Everybody else is gonna have fun. Just go in there, answer it, get that belt, and let's get the hell out of here.
Like, Kaiser's such a producer, that man. He's always looking for his next angle, and I love him for that.
Oh yikes! I'm looking at the time. I'm gonna have to go soon. So
no, I was just about to say we should probably wrap things up.
Well, I don't want to leave anyone out in the chat. So if there was chat questions, I saw a couple.
Oh yeah. Oh, so Ben asked, what was the more exciting rivalry for you, KO and you or Parker?
Different eras of my life. It was exciting for me to play against KO because I was a fan of the sport and I was a fan of him. So getting to toe off with him, and then also like the Don't Tell Peter happened, so the coming back and getting to him and then getting to knock him out was very satisfying.
Yes.
And so that was good. And then being able to play each other again this year and then getting that win again, but like where it was a regular back and forth match instead of just a fluke knockout. So there was not a fluke Don't Tell Peter for him to win. There was not a fluke knockout for me to win. It was like a toe-to-toe. It was fun. So that was one aspect, but I was really excited for the Parker stuff because it was new and it was fresh, right? And especially I lost to him, and I was excited to like, okay, we have this cool story. Now I got some work to do. I got to get back there, but if I can get back there, I'm going to beat him, right? Like that was, there was no question that I was going to beat him. And that's why it felt like there was no question that I was going to win that 4-way. So I was really excited for the future of Parker versus me, but I'm very proud, to answer your question about, I'm very proud of me versus KO. I thought we told a great story to this day. Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. Looking back at those promos and everything like that. What's coming up in Scoundrels Inc. this week? Can you?
We're going to talk about my favorite droid, B2EMO, for 2 hours. And no, I think we'll probably go through more of the news.
Can we do a PowerPoint presentation of why Snoke is keen?
That'll be a good episode. We should do top 5 Star Wars theories. I wasn't there last week, but they had a theory about the bigger Luke, how there was like a bigger Luke, a clone of Luke. Because that's why.
Yes.
Yeah. We have some crazy whacked out theories, so I think it'll be more of the same with that.
I want to hear all your guys' theories because you're all so different. You all have such interesting minds that I think you're each of you are like having 5 theories just to discuss.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. I'm gonna see Frank today, so I should pitch that to him. But I don't know what's in store for this week because I was gone last week. So we always joke, the never more than 12. We always joke that sometimes our show's never more than 3 because like someone's out sick or can't make it. And so I was out last week. So hopefully we have a full crew this week and we'll talk about all things Star Wars. And I'll probably boast to Sean that the new trailer for KOTOR came out. My newest
He really should have notifications on for everything that you do. So really, he should have seen it before.
He should have. Sean,
right?
Sean, shame on you, Sean.
You say that like Sean's watching my stuff too. Come on, he doesn't watch your stuff. He's not watching my stuff.
How dare he? I'm gonna send him a link.
I always say this to him. I'm like, it's fine. If you'd watch my show, you'd know.
Yeah.
Just start saying that if you see my movie. No, it's been amazing having you on, and amazing legacy that you've had in this show. Yeah. But thank you to the fans for watching. I don't know when I'll be doing this again as per usual because that's the kind of creator that I am.
You're a special attraction. That's great. You don't have to come up every week.
No, I'm such an inconsistent. It's like
Sean is here.
Oh, I feel like he heard the.
Sean, was your ear itching or twinkling because we were talking about? I was trying to get Kiwi Jess is going to watch KOTOR, and I'm like, oh, you got to text Sean and say you watch KOTOR before him. I
like how he's coming up right as we're ending.
Scroll back. I said that you're one of my favorite people in the world, just so you know.
He did. Yeah,
but yeah, she's talking about that would be a good topic for this Wednesday. Sean is our top 5 theories. Each of us throw our three theories. Or,
Oh yeah,
I think Bigger Luke's up there. I'm so stoked that Sean brought up Bigger Luke because I haven't heard of that before. It's so ridiculous that I want it to be true.
I want it to be true too. But I mean, sorry, Sean. I know that Oh, he literally just got here. Oh, well, unfortunately, Sean, we are wrapping up.
Sorry,
but
Sean.
it's because we're like, shoot, Sean's arriving. Let's go. Let's wrap this up. But thank you again, Kevin, for joining me. And thank you guys for tuning in. And at some point, I guess I will probably be, yes, please go and follow Kevin, Kevin, wherever that is, and watch their podcast. Otherwise, you'll find me here at some point, or you might find me before that on Sean's channel doing something exciting. Maybe.
Nice.
We'll see. It depends on when I actually get my act together. Who knows?
All
but
I know
otherwise,
is I like to brag and say I'm on the inside. I know what show you guys are talking about, and I hope you do it because it sounds really awesome.
I'm hopefully very excited to do it. So, otherwise, you'll see me at some point, maybe on the internet. But otherwise, see you next time, guys.